restore to 47.
The investigation into the deadly collision on runway 24 left focuses on Robin Washer's conversations with the two planes involved. Investigators begin with the smaller plane.
23 taxiing to position and hold.
Minutes before the accident, the pilots of the Metroliner waited for permission to take off.
SkyWest 569, taxi into position and hold runway 24 left. Traffic will be crossing downfield.
We use the tapes to try to visualize, like a local controller would, where the aircraft would be on the runway.
The pilots of the SkyWest Metroliner turned their plane onto the runway and stopped at intersection 45. They had to wait for another plane to cross the runway downfield.
Okay, 24 left, position and hold, SkyWest 569.
Okay, stop right there.
From the air traffic control tapes, the NTSB can tell that the pilots of the Metroliner followed all their instructions correctly.
All right, let's keep going.
Responsibility for the accident must lie elsewhere. Investigators probe the tapes further. They look at Washer's communications with the US Air pilots.
US Air 1493 for the left side, 24 left.
Thank you, US Air 1493. You're cleared to land 24 left.
A US Air 1493 was cleared to land on the same runway during the time that SkyWest 569 was still sitting in position on that same runway.
Cleared to land, 24 left. 1493.
SkyWest 569, right at intersection 45.
How long's it been there?
1 minute, 7 seconds.
The air traffic control tapes reveal that Robin Washer instructed both the SkyWest Metroliner and the US Air flight to use runway 24 left at the same time.
Left contact, ground, point 5 when you are.
What the hell?
When we're examining the recorded voice communications, what we try to do is to put ourselves in the position of the controller. What would she have seen? What would she have heard? What would she have done?
Investigators need to know what Robin Washer was doing at the time of the crash. They look at the other flights that she had under her control.
Wings West 5006, taxi across runway 24 left.
They learn that in the moments before the collision, Washer began to lose track of some of those flights.
Is that for Philippine 102?
No, sir, hold short. Wings West 5006, taxi across runway 24 left.
Wings West 5006 was an aircraft that was on the north side of runway 24 left who wanted to cross to the south side.
Wings West 5006, ground, tower.
And when she was ready to cross the aircraft, the crew did not respond.
Washer spent nearly a full minute of her time trying to re-establish radio contact with the flight crossing the runway.
Can I hear the rest of that exchange?
Wings West 5006, on frequency again. Change radio. Sorry about that.
They advised her they had inadvertently been on another frequency.
5006, you're back with me.
Yeah, we didn't mean to switch radios. We're on now.
And that created a distraction for the local controller.
Okay, I thought I lost you.
Sorry, we thought we lost you. We apologize.
Not a problem.
But investigators discover that that flight wasn't the only aircraft Robin Washer was fixated on in the moments before the crash.
Tower Wings West 5072 is ready for takeoff.
Wings West 5072?
With US Air 1493 less than a minute from touchdown, Washer hears from another Wings West aircraft, Flight 5072.
When Wings West 5072 called to say that he was ready for departure, it was obvious to us that she didn't understand who this aircraft was.
Wings West 5072, are you at 47 or full length?
We're at full length.
Okay, hold short.
Roger. Holding short.
Investigators need to hear from Washer herself.
I couldn't find the flight progress strip.
They hope to learn why she didn't recognize a flight that was under her control.
I couldn't find the strip, so I asked my supervisor to help me. Francina? I need a strip for Wings West 5072.
She explains that as the pilots of the Metroliner waited on the runway for permission to take off, she was searching for another flight's progress strip. Before she could get back on track, US Air Flight 1493 crashed into the back of the Metroliner.
What the hell?
NTSB investigators now know that human error played a major role in the collision at LAX. Remarkably, when she cleared the US Air flight to land, Robin Washer simply forgot about the Metroliner waiting on the runway. Investigators turned their attention to the cockpit of the US Air flight. They wonder why the pilots didn't see the Metroliner out on the runway and abort their landing.
Well, most of us in the pilot community would recognize that it's our job to scan that runway and find aircraft that might be out there or anything else prior to landing.
Like all planes, the Metroliner is equipped with lights to make it more visible at night. There are strobe lights on the wingtips and the tail, navigation lights on the wings, and a colored anti-collision beacon on top of the vertical stabilizer.
We were concerned about the SkyWest lighting and had to look at the flight operations manual, and we found that the operating procedure for that company was to turn on the strobe lights only after clearance for takeoff.
So no other lights were required? Okay, thank you.
The Metroliner wasn't yet cleared for takeoff. So the only lights that would have been lit while it waited on the runway were the navigation lights on the wings and tail, and the anti-collision beacon on the tail. NTSB investigators then use a helicopter to put themselves in the position of the US Air pilots as they were making the approach to runway 24 left.
We went up and we actually flew that final approach in order to verify what we thought might be the condition of obscuration.
They positioned a Metroliner on the runway in the same spot where the collision occurred.
And sure enough, we could not see that aircraft parked out there at spot 45 and 47. You just couldn't see it.
Looks real good.
The investigation determines the lights on the Metroliner were the same color and brightness as the runway lights. The plane may have been all but invisible to the pilots of US Air 1493.
You're coming out of 500.
The anti-collision beacon in particular would have been lost in a sea of lights.